Hello and welcome to Babylon Game Starter. As today we look into the wonderful world of particle systems. And in doing so, we'll also unveil this wonderful tool that we'll be seeing a little bit later that was created by community member Solnick. Shout out to Solnick. Thank you so much. We'll be looking at your tool a little bit later. Here we go. Let's get started. In our starter code, we have this first section where we are asked to place this below the hyperparticles definition in gameconfig.ts. So let's go over here and open up our settings panel. And let's go ahead and turn on the Babylon Playground UI. Go ahead and go out of full screen so we can see the editor. And let's go look, as it mentions, for Hyper. So let's search for Hyper. And we can find it in two files. We were asked to go to the game config, and here's the game config file. And it's already opened there. And so let's go ahead below this Hyper section. Let's put a comma at the end of that, and let's go down one line, and let's go ahead and paste our code in there, and let's go ahead and tab that in so it looks a little better. And I'm going to move this curly brace back a little bit, and there we go. Now we have our definition for this particular particle system called hearts, and it's of the magic category. It is important to note that if you wanted to add a new category, you would have to do a little bit more. We are not going to get into categories particularly today, but that is important to call that out. Okay, so here we are with our hearts definition, and the hearts are a type of particle system. So let's go ahead now over to the starter code once again, and we want to put this below the hyperparticles usage in Flat City in assets.ts. So let's go ahead and copy this starter code and go back. This time to assets.ts. If we look for hyper, we can see it's over here. Let's go to the assets section, and we can see this is where we have our hyper usage. This is where we're actually using it, not simply defining it. We are using it. We're going to put a comma after that, go down a line, and we're going to paste that code in there. And we're going to go ahead and tab that in. And I'm going to back that curly brace up a little bit. Now, let's take a look at this. This is putting an instance of this type of particle system called hearts at the position 96, 12, negative 162, specifically with an update speed of 0.003. So this is the instance kind of clarification of where we want to put it, what update speed we want it to have. And let's go ahead then and see this in action. Let's go ahead and play this. All right, there we do have our particle system, and this is the hearts particle system right there. Love it. Okay, that's all you need for the basics of today's lesson. If you wanted to see how to get a particle system instance in a particular level, in a particular environment, but we're going to take it a little bit further here today. You're welcome to go ahead and stop here if that's enough for you. But I'm going to take us now off into what I find is a really, really interesting tool learning guide. And this is the Node Particle Editor Complete Guide. Nothing left unexplored in this complete guide to the Node Particle Editor. This is amazing. Thank you so much, Solnik, for this. And we're just going to go down here to the basics. In particular, we're going to be looking at the first emission lesson. And this is a wonderfully laid out lesson. Let's go ahead and click on this. And it gives us an introduction section. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to create a simple particle system using the Node Particle Editor. We'll start with the fundamental blocks of the system block, the update position block, and create particle. And we'll follow a sequence of events with these learning objectives in mind: to understand the basic structure of a particle system, to learn how to connect blocks visually in the editor, to create particles using create particle and box-shaped blocks, to use input blocks to retrieve contextual particle data like position and scale direction, to apply mathematical operations to combine position and direction using math blocks, and finally to understand the particle flow, create particle, box shape, update position, and system in that order. Okay, and then we have a nice advanced button here to go on to the next step. And it takes us right over here into that next step where we are kind of guided through. And we can see that it gives us all of these wonderful ways of interacting. I'm going to stay on 1.1 because that's all we're going to do today. And what I want to show you is if you click on this, step-by-step instructions, it takes you right where you need to be. Now, just to be clear, this guide has the actual Babylon particle editor embedded within it. Now, if we were going to go to the Babylon particle editor by itself, we will see that it looks something like this, where it's taking up the entirety of the page. It is obviously complex. There's a lot going on. So I am very thankful for Solnik that we have this tool to introduce the specific nuances of this tool and its proper use. Let's go ahead and drag out a system block here as it instructs us. And let's go get a texture block, clicking on texture, and drag out a texture block. And it says to, over here, load a texture source. It says load a texture source. And over here, it actually got me a flare. By clicking this, it actually downloaded a flare that I can get. So I'm going to go ahead and load in that texture source. And there's the flare it gave me. And then I'm going to add a create particle block. I'm holding off connecting them to the system block. I know it said connect them to the system block, but I'm going to do that now, doing it a little bit out of order. And we'll see here in a second. This is going to be the first reveal where we have a system. And I'm going to pull this down a little bit. And we're going to connect the particle output to the particle input for the system. We're going to take the texture output and go to the texture input. And look at that. We already have ourselves a visual down here. And then we're going to go down below that to box shape. And we're going to be putting this between the create particle and the system block. So over here, we're going to take this box shape and put it between these two so we can then connect. And look at that. It just connected them very nicely. We have them already right there. I don't even have to connect them any further. I've already pretty much done that. All right, let's go get the update position block that we're going to be using along with this. So let's go click update position. And we're going to put this between box shape and the system block. So I go ahead and grab that update position and put it right between these two. Now, if it doesn't connect, that's fine. There it is. Once I kind of clicked it in there, it auto-connected. And you can manually connect them, or they can auto-connect if you drop them in a certain fashion. Let's go ahead where it says add a position block right here. So it says add a position block. We'll drag that in, and we'll just connect that right to the position. And then it says add a scale direction block. And we'll go ahead and add that scale direction. And what we'll end up doing is taking a math block next, an add block, and we'll be putting the scale direction and the position into the left and right inputs of the add block. And then we will be connecting the output of the add block to the position. And there we have it. This is our introductory lesson, our first emission. And we've done it. Now, what I want to point out right here is a flow then to go from these lessons. If you want to take what you've learned in these lessons and export it and then import it into the standalone node particle editor, how would you do that? So if you click anywhere away from the nodes over in this region, so click anywhere away from a node, you will be able to access this menu where you can save, not save the snippet server. It's premature to do that because this is embedded and that save would not actually work. But we want to go to File, Save. And if you go File, Save, you can click on that and download that file. And then you can go to the node particle editor and you can load it in. Okay, so this node particle editor, it's pretty much the same as this, but I'm going to go through that walkthrough anyway. We want to go to File, Load over here, and then we can load that in. And that gives us our, and you may be saying, hold it, I don't see anything. That's because there's one crucial step that I did not do. And let's go back over here and see what that was. All right, so I need to go to the texture. If I want this to serialize the cache data, I need to explicitly say that. So clicking on the texture node for it to save it over here, we want to serialize it. So we want to click on the texture and then click serialize cached data. That's going to be important. And then we want to click off and then we want to save it. So now we want to go to File, Save. And now we want to go back and load in the file. And here's the new one. Now we actually have that texture data in there and we can see it. Okay, so that's a really important subtlety to pay attention to whenever you are working with textures. You need to go down to Advanced and serialize the cached data in order to make sure that that data is in your download. Even if you're not working with the Node Particle Editor Complete Guide, if you're working directly with the standalone Node Particle Editor, you still want to go and make sure that you have serialized cache data. Now let's just say at this point, let's just say that you wanted to go ahead and use this in your game. Okay, so what would you do then? Well, click off, and you can go down here and save as a unique URL, and then this will give you a snippet ID up in your URL bar. And the snippet ID is, in this case, located at the end of the URL. Okay, I do not have that in view, but it will basically be what you see at the end of the URL. And then you could put that, if we go over here, you could put that in the snippet ID section of the code, and you can give your particular particle system a name that you like. Instead of hearts, you might call that glow, whatever you would call it. Keep in mind that for now it would be best to leave the category as magic, because I haven't gone over how to add a new category. So keep that the same. And then after you've added your particle system definition in the game config file, then you want to go and add an instance or more. You can add as many instances as you want, and then you can add them to whichever environment you want in whatever position at whatever update speed, and that would be in the assets.ts file. So that's the whole flow for this amazing creative outlet. You can do so many awesome things with these node kind of built particle systems. Get these particle systems into your game, let them express whatever they're intended to that goes along with your narrative, and bring your thoughts and stories to life. That's it for today. I wish you a wonderful, wonderful day. Take care.